Recently, I was talking to a woman who is still in the workforce, and she was talking about how stressed and overwhelmed she is, and how busy she is, and how it feels like she can't stop because there's always more to do, always more at work, always more at home, always, always, always. And so it's going, going, going. And I asked, are you practicing Sabbath? And she said no, and sort of questioned the question. Sabbath is something we hear about sort of loosely related to the Ten Commandments, but within the Christian traditions, a lot of us have sort of gotten pretty far afield of it. Maybe we talk about Sunday as the Sabbath day, but we don't really do much with that necessarily. Some of us might. I'm one of those who does. I picked up the practice of Sabbath when I was in seminary, which should tell you something, because I grew up in the church and was in church in college, and Sabbath wasn't something we talked about as a particular practice. But in seminary, they talked about it. And I remember one woman speaking about her Sabbath practices and really relating to them as things that filled her cup, things that helped restore her spirit for the work week ahead. Not just a don't do this and don't do that, and don't go to work and don't buy things and don't make other people work and don't have your animals work and don't have your maidservants work, and all of those things that are sort of old school from the biblical language, pretty traditional within the Orthodox Jewish traditions, but more of sort of thinking about how do we fill our cups. And particularly in a seminary setting where you're talking to preachers who work on Sundays, practicing Sabbath becomes sort of an ironic proposal. And so they taught us to sort of think about picking a Sabbath day, any day of the week, to practice Sabbath. And Sabbath keeping or practicing Sabbath really involved sort of setting aside of responsibilities and thinking about the things that fill our cup. So when I was young and single, I thought about the things that I had to do. If I thought, oh, I have to do laundry, or I have to clean the house, or I have to read this book for class, or I have to write a paper, then those were things that got excluded from Sabbath. And nope, those have to wait. It's Sabbath, and so I can't do those things. I'm not doing those things. But then there were other things that sort of came into middle spaces. Some days I wanted to rake the leaves and do yard work. Not all the Sabbath days, but some of them. I was like, yeah, I want to get outside. I want to move my body. I want to get the yard clean. I want to rake the leaves because that'll feel really good to me. And so I had to give myself permission to think about, yeah, yard work could be a Sabbath practice. It didn't have to be, but it could be. Similarly with doing chores around the house or cooking. I love to cook and have for a long time. And so some days, oh, I have to cook. That can feel like a burden. And other days, cooking is a gift and something fun to do, and it really sort of fuels me to be able to cook for myself and for others. In other ways, Sabbath was taking a nap or watching a movie or reading a book. And so there's sort of a whole mix of a variety of things. And so I want us to continuously think about Sabbath as filling our cup, thinking about the practices that help us to do that, and recognizing that there's going to be a diversity of those things depending on who we are and what we enjoy. So as we head into this sort of dormant season of winter, juxtaposed by the busy season of the holidays, I want to invite you to think about Sabbath. Are you practicing Sabbath? Do you think about what is filling your cup on a regular basis and doing those things intentionally and setting aside a day to do that as a regular practice? Now, as I've talked with folks over the years, when we talk about starting a Sabbath practice, taking one full day feels ludicrous for most folks. Not everybody, but for a lot of folks, they've got things going all the time, especially folks who are still in the workforce. And so if you can't imagine taking a full day, think about taking a half a day or dividing your waking hours into thirds of a day and maybe taking a third of the day. Maybe that's turning off your phone. Maybe that's committing to not opening your emails or not checking social media or not checking text messages, but sort of getting outside and getting into something or staying inside. It doesn't matter where you are. And again, getting into something, allowing yourself to sort of be taken away by the attitude of rest and restoration. Pick something. Try it, and then try it again and try it again. It takes a while to establish a practice, but it's worthwhile as it nurtures and nourishes us. Take care, friends.